everybody, welcome to BrickVault. Today I get to show you guys an amazing UCS scale Cylon Raider. I say UCS as an Ultimate Collector series just because I don't know what other category to put this gigantic Lego build in. This is another creation to come from the excellent designer David Duperron, and if this looks familiar, it is built also at a similar scale to his original Colonial Viper. They look absolutely awesome together, but I'm not going to talk about the Viper today. I already have another video on that already out, linked in the description below. So today we're just going to focus on the amazing details of this gigantic Lego MOC, which represents the reimagined version of the Cylon Raider that was first seen back in 2003. What makes these spaceships somewhat unique compared to, I would say, most within sci-fi universes is the fact that it is a living being as well as being a spaceship and a fighter. When Raiders are damaged or taken out during a battle, they can actually be salvaged and reborn, so to speak. So the cybernetic system of the ship actually has memory of its previous defeat and still retains all of its tactical skills. Like any long drawn out war, that is an absolutely invaluable asset to have experienced fighters essentially all the time, when of course on the human side, if a Colonial Viper goes down, they've got to train up and put out a totally green pilot for the next mission. Anyways, I always thought that was an awesome concept behind the show, and before I jump into any of the major design details on this massive model, I would first like to say that you can get the building instructions from our web store. That's www.brickvault.toys. With each purchase comes a PDF step-by-step building instruction guide, as well as a digital parts list for quickly and easily uploading the pieces that you're gonna need to buy online. Every purchase really helps support us here at the channel. We can make awesome builds like this for you nearly every single week, and it also is a great way to help support the builders that we work with, like David here. Now, jumping into the Cylon itself, it's interesting that this is a somewhat organic creature, or certainly has organic components, because the overall shape to this spaceship is actually very unique. I always sort of likened it to that of a crescent moon, but ultimately this design really just has two long, sleek, arcing arms that reach forward in front of it. It makes for an incredibly menacing look for a spaceship. That, and of course, the shape of the head that actually resembles that of the robotic versions of the Cylons, and it even has that single slit or visor-like shape where the single red eye would bounce back and forth. Now, alright, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I think I'm going to go through the major details of the body slowly but surely, starting with the arms. You can see it's mostly made up of slope pieces along the top, along with wing plates, with an underlying very strong Technic structure. At the very back of the shoulders, we have those much larger Technic wing pieces. They carry a lot more surface area and have, I think, a bit of a smoother curve, which is the reason why David wanted to use them. And then truly the excellent part of the overall shape for these arcing arms that come forward is the fact that they're totally canted. They are both slightly canted downward from that of the main body. This is totally vital to make the ship look a lot more accurate, and it's also not an easy thing to pull off from a design standpoint. So I'm super glad David went ahead and rerouted and changed the entire form of the internal Technic body to just have a little bit of an angle. In terms of some of the smaller details that you would see on the ship, we of course have the two weapons. I think they're just regular laser cannons or kinetic energy blasters. They can be found just under the initial curve of the shoulders or arms of the Cylon Raider, and right next to those intakes, or what look like intakes. The Raider also has these interesting kind of indentations on, I'm gonna say, the elbow, and David used some rather interesting pieces that were produced in the early 2000s, roughly the same time the show was coming out, and it just makes a wonderful little arcing shape. Along the upper ends of the shoulders, you can see some slope grill pieces used in black. There's also a little bit more of a black underlay just behind the detailing for the head. Speaking of which, the curves that make up the total shape of the head are absolutely awesome. We've got some flexible tubing that make up the jaw line area. I don't know how else to describe that. And then some flexi tube clipped in right beneath the red part of the visor. Also, the angle that rounds out the front of the face is wonderful. It's slope pieces that are attached to some wing plates and a few other tiles, but they're all on top of other joints, which ultimately adds two combinations of angles. It makes it feel like the face is really rounded over, and also the bottom is very, very strong with those Technic connectors, really making the jaw feel a lot more pronounced. On top of all of that, literally, the head is connected also with a series of slopes and plates that are at a competing angle to once and for all really round out this extremely complex and difficult shape to make out of Lego bricks. He pulled it off excellently, and now we're looking at the shoulders a bit closer. These much larger Technic pieces can actually come in light bluish gray, which some could argue would be more accurate, though that piece is essentially impossible to buy. It's like super rare, so we did it in the darker bluish gray, which still has an excellent look. And with these wing plates combined with those larger slopes and much bigger dish pieces, the Cylon Reader feels ultimately a lot smoother, especially when you kind of look at it from multiple angles. From the back, we have a wonderful rounding off of the two thrusters that you can see. The connection points here, I feel like, cannot be understated enough. Not only are the slope pieces completely rounded over from all angles around the two initial thrusters, but you can once again see how the back of the head, or the center back area of the ship, is a combination of hinged slope pieces that meld nearly perfectly into the overall shape of the body. To get the smooth round curves of the undercarriage, you can see that it's a series of arch pieces that have just been built in layers and also connected by slope pieces as sort of a guiding line through the center. This is an interesting approach. I haven't seen too many builders tackle larger slope areas like this before, and personally I'm a fan of it. I think it actually looks pretty darn good. Also, from here you can see a bit more on how this Raider is suspended above the ground. In fact, the stand does make it look like this thing is 100% lifted off the ground, and basically this is achieved through the transparent Technic lift beams that embed themselves deep into the center of the body, while a lot of the weight from the arms rests on top of the same beams, but they actually just rest on top with a little rubber wheel as kind of a nice little buffer. When everything is set in place, it stays there pretty easily on these 4 different points of contact, and the end result produces what looks like a floating Cylon Raider. As for the rest of the stand, it's quite detailed. It's a series of different slope pieces on top of plates with some different bricks for detailing as well as grill pieces, and you can see it just slightly, but the arms that move out on either side from the stand actually have a little bit of trans red in there. For, of course, some of that Cylon detailing. David also created his own UCS style Lego sticker. Our printer isn't, of course, the best quality. I think maybe someday we will invest in one of those nice laser printers. But anyways, if you want to produce your own sticker for the front here, the PDF with that print file is also included as well. Now, there's always a section of the video where I like to show you guys how well this model handles. Because of its size and sort of awkward shape, the Cylon Raider shouldn't be used without the stand. You can rest the body on the flat ground, but ultimately it just looks a lot better in the stand, and I feel like over time maybe the weight of the body might start to separate some of the bricks after a long time. But here I am picking up the model. It's pretty darn heavy and it wants to lean forward because of the arms that stick out, so a lot of the care that you see me using when handling this mock is mostly out of necessity because of the sheer weight of this model. In general, I don't really see a whole lot of pieces breaking off. There was that one tile that came off very quickly, and now that you can see it from underneath, I did just want to show you guys that little archway underneath the neck. It looks great from there. And then if you wanted to see the where those 2 little prongs of the Technic arms stick in, they fit into the tiny little holes underneath the model, and I like to just sort of flip the whole thing as a unit where the arms of the Cylon Raider rest on top of the little wheels. It's a super solid fit, and ultimately the handling for the model is just fine. There's no weird little weak parts. It's just a dang heavy Lego build. There's a lot of dense bricks on the inside. Remember, if you wanted to build this Lego custom model on your own, the instructions can be found at our web store, www.brickvault.toys. And if you enjoy our content, you can always like or subscribe. Let me know what type of model you want to see us build next, and we'll see you next time at BrickVault.